Let's talk now to Immigration Lawyer Zefy Souvlakis from Ethos Migration Lawyers in Melbourne. Thanks for staying up for us, Zefy. We're so pleased to see you because there is so much confusion right around the world about what has actually happened. Because to many people, what it looks like is that Novak Djokovic was given a visa, had a visa approved to come to Australia, but now he's sitting there waiting to be deported. What happened?
Thank you for having me. It's definitely a complicated issue. There's many layers to unpack here. From what we know and the information that is publicly available, it appears that Mr. Djokovic didn't have a visa to enter the country. However, he was subsequently detained upon arrival and questioned by the Australian Border Force officials because of his medical exemption documentation. Now, there are powers under the Australian immigration law that allow Border Force officials to do that upon entry for temporary visa holders in particular, and in situations where they're not satisfied about a particular requirement, there is a power for a visa to be cancelled, and from there that individual is to be detained.
So, Zefy, what are the rules for medical exemptions for unvaccinated people to enter Australia?
Effectively, they are required to produce documentation to show that a medical practitioner that is authorised from an overseas government has exempted them from receiving the vaccination, whether it is due to an acute condition or because they've previously contracted COVID-19 in the last 6 months.
But do you believe that this visa was suddenly cancelled because the National Border Force, not the Victorian authorities, didn't find the evidence convincing?
It's hard to say. I would be speculating. It's a question of whether sufficient documentation was there, and also, whether they were in fact convinced that the documentation was valid.
Zefy, have Tennis Australia and I guess the Victorian government got this wrong in some way? Because surely the ultimate power does rest with the National Border Force.
Mm-hmm. It's not really a matter of those authorities getting it wrong as such. They are separate in a sense, in that the Tennis Australia grants medical exemptions based on their own internal policy. They're not really guided by national rules when it comes to it. And the Victorian state government's rules, they are to an extent separate. So the last, I'd say, layer relating to entering the country rests with the federal government, and it appears that this is where the issue lies with regards to Mr. Djokovic exemption to enter.
Have you been at all surprised by the reaction to all of this in Australia, Zefy, given many Australians who have wanted to come home from overseas, sometimes to visit a relative who is unwell or in other tragic circumstances, have had their visas denied or cancelled?
It's definitely not surprising. We've definitely been through a lot this last 2 years, and we've seen, many families being separated for months on end. So it comes as no surprise that there's this outcry now for Mr. Djokovic to be able to come and play tennis, which is, we will welcome all players, but it's definitely up to the public to decide.
Very quickly, Zefy, a lot of people want to know who's at fault. Do we have enough information to know that?
There's definitely not enough information. It may not be, a particular individual's fault. It's to an extent procedural, and hopefully we'll know more in the days to come.
Great to have you with us, Zefy. Thanks so much for joining us, Zefy Souvlakis.
Thank you.